The impossible stand. Captain Elena Vega stood motionless on the bridge of the Audacity, her eyes fixed on the tactical display as hundreds of alien vessels materialized from the void. The massive Krellan Dominion fleet had arrived without warning, their ships arranged in perfect geometric formations that spoke of military precision honed across centuries of interstellar conquest. "Status report," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the nightmare unfolding before them. Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. "All systems at combat readiness, Captain. Shields at maximum capacity. Weapons hot. But..." He hesitated, "there are over 300 enemy vessels. We're detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our database." The Audacity was humanity's most advanced warship, the culmination of decades of theoretical physics and engineering breakthroughs. But it was just one ship against an armada designed to subjugate entire star systems. "Communications, open a channel," Elena ordered, adjusting her uniform collar. Earth's other defensive vessels were scattered across the solar system on patrol or undergoing maintenance. The Audacity had been conducting its shakedown cruise at the system's edge when the Krellan fleet appeared. Now it was all that stood between humanity and potential extinction. The main view screen flickered, revealing a towering alien figure. The Krellan admiral had 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern across a face that resembled polished obsidian. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonic undertones that made the bridge crew wince. "I am Grand Admiral Zathos of the Krellan Dominion. Your species has been evaluated and found wanting. Submit to immediate integration or face obliteration. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be preserved in our archives. Resistance is irrational." Elena stepped forward, her shoulders squared. "This is Captain Elena Vega of the Earth Defense Force vessel Audacity. You have entered sovereign human territory without authorization. We request your immediate withdrawal." A sound like grinding metal echoed through the communication channel, Krellan laughter. "One vessel cannot impede the will of the Dominion," Zathos stated. "Your defiance is noted but irrelevant. You have one planetary rotation to prepare your world for our arrival." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the bridge in stifling silence. Commander Jackson Way, Elena's executive officer, moved to her side. "Captain, we should retreat and rendezvous with the fleet at Mars. The Audacity isn't meant to face an entire armada alone." Elena's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. "If we retreat, they'll follow. We'd lead them straight to Earth with its minimal orbital defenses." "No, Commander. Sometimes the only way out is through." She turned to face her crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but also determination. The Audacity isn't just a warship. It's a test bed for technologies that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. It's time we put theory into practice. Elena moved to the Central Command Station. "Lieutenant Volkov, begin charging the quantum displacement matrix." "Commander Way, prepare the Chimera protocol." Way's eyes widened. "Captain, the Chimera protocol has never been field tested. The power requirements alone could burn out our systems. And if we do nothing, Earth burns instead," Elena replied, her voice firm but quiet. "Chief Engineer Ortiz, how long can our shields withstand concentrated fire from the Krellan fleet?" The chief's voice came through the comm system, tinged with a Spanish accent. "At maximum output, perhaps 10 minutes against that level of firepower, Captain. After that. Then we'll have to be quick," Elena said, accessing the tactical systems. "Navigation, plot an intercept course that will take us through the center of their formation. We need to get as many of their ships in range as possible when we activate the Chimera protocol." Lieutenant Naomi Chen at navigation looked startled. "Through their formation?" "Captain, that's necessary," Elena finished. "The quantum displacement field has limited range. We need to position ourselves at the optimal point. The bridge crew exchanged glances, but no one objected further. They had all volunteered for the Audacity's experimental program, knowing the risks. Course plotted, Captain, Chen reported moments later. Execute, Elena ordered, returning to her command chair. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. The Audacity surged forward, its revolutionary gravimetric engines propelling it toward the heart of the Krellin formation. On the tactical display, enemy vessels began shifting position in response. They're moving to intercept, Volkov reported. Multiple weapon locks detected. Let them come, Elena said. Engineering, status of the Chimera Protocol. Chief Engineer Ortiz's voice was strained. Quantum matrix at 60% charge, Captain. But I must warn you, we've never channeled this much energy before. Theoretical models suggest we'll have one shot before our systems overload. One shot is all we need, Elena replied. Humanity has always advanced by taking risks, by reaching beyond what seemed impossible. The first volley from the Krellin fleet arrived, lances of coherent energy that crashed against the Audacity's shields. The ship shuddered violently. Shields at 80%, Volkov called out. Second volley incoming. Hold course, Elena commanded. Wait for my mark. The Audacity plunged deeper into the alien formation, its shields weakening with each hit. The Krellin vessels surrounded them completely now, like predators circling wounded prey. Quantum matrix at full charge, Ortiz reported. Chimera Protocol ready to initiate. All hands, brace for energy surge, Elena ordered. Engineering, on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Ortiz activated the Chimera Protocol. The Audacity began to vibrate as unprecedented energy coursed through its systems. The ship's specialized emitter arrays glowed brighter and brighter until they outshone the distant sun. On the Krellin flagship, alarms blared as sensors detected the building energy. What are they doing? Admiral Zathos demanded of his science officer. Unknown, Grand Admiral. They're generating some kind of quantum resonance field. Energy readings are impossible. Aboard the Audacity, systems were failing across the ship as the quantum matrix strained against its containment. Captain, we can't contain this much longer. Ortiz shouted over the comm, now. Elena ordered. The energy that had been building within the Audacity burst outward in an expanding sphere of brilliant azure light. Where it touched the Krellin ships, their advanced shields flickered and failed. Their weapon systems went dark. Their engines stalled. The Chimera Protocol had worked precisely as its human designers had theorized. It had created a quantum state disruption that interfered with the cohesion of the Krellin's technology, exploiting vulnerabilities no one could have known existed until this moment. Status report, Elena called out over the groaning of stressed metal as the Audacity struggled to hold itself together. Their ships are disabled, Volkov reported, amazement in his voice. The quantum disruption affected their technology somehow. They're dead in space. Elena opened a channel to Zathos's ship. The alien commander appeared, his vessel's lights flickering around him. What have you done? Zathos demanded, his harmonics discordant with shock. Demonstrated why you should never underestimate humans, Elena replied. Your technology may be advanced, but humans understand something your kind never will, the power of desperation, of ingenuity born from necessity. This is impossible, Zathos hissed. One ship cannot defeat an armada. Yet here we are, Elena said. Now you have a choice, leave our system immediately, or we'll share the specifications for our quantum disruption technology with every ship in our fleet. And next time, we won't just disable your vessels. Hours later, as Earth's reinforcements arrived, they found the Krellin armada in full retreat, escorted to the system's edge by the battle-scarred Audacity. In a single encounter, humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not as prey, but as a force to be reckoned with. And as Captain Elena Vega watched the last Krellin ship disappear into the depths of space, she knew that everything had changed. The impossible had become possible. Humanity had taken its first steps into a much larger universe, on its own terms. The heart of defiance. The celebration aboard the Audacity lasted precisely 3 minutes and 42 seconds. That was when the ship's primary power grid failed completely. Emergency power only, Chief Engineer Ortiz reported, her voice crackling through the damaged communication system. The Chimera protocol fried most of our power conduits. Life support is stable, but weapons, shields, and propulsion are offline. Captain Elena Vega gripped the edge of her command console, which now displayed only static. Casualties? Commander Wei consulted a datapad that one of the bridge officers had handed him. 12 injured, 3 critically. Medical Bay is operating on backup power. Dr. Novak says they'll stabilize. Elena nodded, relief washing over her. No deaths, at least not yet. She turned to Lieutenant Volkov at Tactical. The Krellin fleet. Volkov was working with a portable scanner, the main tactical systems having gone dark with the power failure. Regrouping at the edge of the system, Captain. Our quantum disruption disabled roughly 60% of their vessels. The remainder appear to be assisting with recovery operations. They'll be back, Elena stated, knowing it wasn't a question. The Krellin Dominion hadn't conquered 1,000 worlds by retreating after a single setback. How long until we have main power? Ortiz's voice came through again, accompanied by the sounds of frantic work in the background. 12 hours minimum, Captain. The quantum matrix overloaded exactly as our simulations predicted. We need to replace most of the power distribution nodes. You have 6 hours, Chief, Elena replied, her tone allowing no argument. Our reinforcements won't arrive for another 8. Understood, Captain, Ortiz responded after a brief pause. We'll do the impossible. Again. On the bridge, Elena turned to her executive officer. Commander Wei, I need a comprehensive damage assessment. Lieutenant Chen, use the emergency transponders to contact Earth Command. They need to know what we're facing. As her crew sprang into action, Elena moved to the small tactical planning room adjacent to the bridge. The holographic projector there was still functioning on backup power. She activated it, displaying the last known positions of the Krellin fleet. Computer, analysis. What tactical options would be available to the Krellin commander based on their current disposition? The ship's AI responded, its voice distorted by damage to its primary processors. Based on known Krellin military doctrine and current fleet positioning, Grand Admiral Zathos has 3 primary options: full retreat to gather reinforcements, immediate counterattack while our systems are compromised, or a flanking maneuver to bypass the Audacity entirely and proceed directly to Earth. Elena studied the display, tracking the movements of the alien vessels. And if you were in command of their fleet, which would you choose? The AI paused, its algorithms calculating. Immediate counterattack. The Krellin Dominion maintains power through demonstrations of overwhelming force. Allowing a technologically inferior species to inflict damage without swift retaliation would be culturally unacceptable. My assessment as well, Elena murmured. How long until they're combat ready? Estimating 4 to 5 hours, Captain. Elena's fingers drummed against the edge of the projector. Not enough time. Aboard the Krellin flagship Inevitable Conquest, Grand Admiral Zathos stood before his war council, 6 eyes narrowed to slits of fury. One vessel, he hissed, the harmonics of his voice causing the officers around him to flinch. One primitive vessel has delayed our conquest and damaged our fleet. Science Director Mokath bowed his head in deference. Grand Admiral, the humans employed technology we have not encountered before. The quantum disruption field they generated temporarily destabilized our power matrices. Temporarily, Zathos repeated, emphasizing each syllable. Yet they achieved with one ship what entire civilizations failed to accomplish with fleets. How is this possible? Humans are unusual, Grand Admiral, Mokath replied carefully. Our preliminary studies of their information networks reveal a species that thrives on conflict and adversity. Where other races seek harmony, humans deliberately introduce chaos into their systems to drive innovation. Zathos moved to the tactical display, studying the position of the damaged human vessel. Can we replicate their quantum weapon? Not immediately. The principles appear sound, but implementation would require significant research. Then we must ensure no examples of this technology survive to threaten the Dominion, Zathos decided. Prepare all operational vessels for immediate attack. Target the human ship with all available firepower. We will obliterate them so thoroughly that not even atoms remain for study. And the rest of their world? Asked Fleet Commander Raxus. Zathos's mandibles clicked together in the Krellin expression of certainty. We will proceed with subjugation as planned. One clever weapon does not change the inevitable outcome. The humans have merely earned a more thorough eradication of their resistance. Back on the Audacity, Elena Vega had gathered her senior officers in the tactical room. The atmosphere was tense but focused. We have approximately 4 hours before the Krellin fleet launches their counterattack, she began without preamble. The quantum matrix is burned out, so the Chimera protocol is no longer an option. Captain, Commander Wei interjected, with all due respect, our best option is to abandon ship. We've transmitted the Chimera specifications to Earth Command. The technology is preserved. We can evacuate in the escape pods while the Krellins are still regrouping. Elena shook her head. Negative, Commander. The Audacity is more than just the Chimera protocol. There are a dozen experimental systems aboard that Earth cannot afford to lose. Besides, she added, indicating the tactical display, the Krellins would target our escape pods before they reached the inner system. Our survival depends on making this ship combat-capable again. She turned to Chief Engineer Ortiz. Options? Ortiz looked exhausted, her uniform stained with coolant fluid and electrical burns on her hands. We've rerouted emergency power to essential systems. We can have minimal shields and point defense weapons in 2 hours. Propulsion will take longer. But Captain, she hesitated, even with those systems online, we can't withstand another direct engagement. We won't have to, Elena replied, activating a different view on the tactical display. We just need to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. Lieutenant Volkov, what's the status of our secondary weapons arrays? Graviton torpedoes are offline, but we still have 2 functional railgun batteries, Volkov reported. Limited ammunition, though. Elena nodded, a plan forming in her mind. We're going to use the solar system to our advantage. Lieutenant Chen, plot a course that will use Jupiter's gravity to slingshot us toward this asteroid field, she indicated a dense cluster of rocks on the display. We'll use the emergency thrusters to position ourselves, then let physics do the rest. A fighting retreat? Wei asked, studying the trajectory. More like a fighting advance, Elena corrected. We'll draw them into the asteroid field, then use our railguns to trigger a cascade of collisions. If we can't beat them with technology, we'll use the oldest weapon of all, momentum. As her officers dispersed to implement her plan, Dr. Novak, the ship's chief medical officer, approached. Captain, a moment. Elena stepped aside with the doctor, noting the concern in his eyes. The radiation levels on the bridge and engineering are approaching hazardous levels, Novak said quietly. The quantum matrix release exposed the crew to more than our shields were designed to handle. If anyone remains in those areas for the next 12 hours, they'll exceed safe exposure limits. Can you administer anti-radiation protocols? Elena asked. Already done, but they're not designed for prolonged exposure. Captain, I must recommend evacuation of those sections. Elena's jaw tightened. Not possible, Doctor. Those are precisely the sections we need to mount any defense. Note your objection in the medical log, but prepare for casualties. As Novak reluctantly departed, Elena returned to the tactical display, studying the approaching Krellin formations. She had just sentenced herself and key members of her crew to potentially lethal radiation exposure. But the alternative was the subjugation of Earth. No price was too high to prevent that. 3 hours later, the Audacity had managed to limp to the edge of the asteroid field using brief bursts from its emergency thrusters. The massive rocks tumbled around them, providing both cover and danger. Krellin fleet approaching, Volkov reported from his station. 87 vessels in attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in 4 minutes. Elena stood at the center of the bridge, fatigue etched in the lines of her face. Several stations were unmanned, their operators evacuated to safer areas of the ship. Those who remained wore radiation badges that had already turned from green to yellow, a warning that exposure levels were climbing. Status of railgun batteries, she asked. Operational, Captain. Targeting solution prepared for the largest asteroids in the field. Elena nodded. Lieutenant Chen, take us deeper into the field. Commander Wei, open a channel to the Krellin flagship. The view screen flickered, then stabilized to show Grand Admiral Zathos. The alien commander seemed surprised by the transmission. You wish to surrender, human? He asked, mandibles clicking. I wish to give you one last opportunity to withdraw, Elena replied calmly. Your ships are still damaged from our previous encounter. This conflict can end without further bloodshed. Zathos made the grinding sound that passed for Krellin laughter. Your vessel is crippled. Your weapon is depleted. There will be no mercy for those who defy the Dominion. Then remember this moment, Admiral, Elena said. Remember that we offered peace, and you chose destruction. She cut the transmission and turned to Volkov. Execute firing pattern Alpha. The Audacity's railguns roared to life, launching hypervelocity projectiles not at the Krellin ships, but at carefully selected asteroids surrounding them. The impacts shattered the massive rocks, sending thousands of fragments cascading through space in a rapidly expanding cloud of debris. Krellin vessels taking evasive action, Volkov reported. But the debris field is too widespread. They're sustaining impacts. On the tactical display, Elena watched as the physics of space combat played out exactly as she had hoped. The Krellin ships, designed for speed and firepower, lacked the maneuverability to avoid the asteroid fragments in such close quarters. Several vessels collided with larger chunks, their shields flaring as they attempted to deflect the natural projectiles. Second volley, target these coordinates, Elena ordered, marking several more asteroids that would create an even denser debris field. The railguns fired again, and this time the effects were even more dramatic. A chain reaction of collisions spread through the asteroid field, trapping the Krellin fleet in a storm of rock and metal. They're attempting to regroup, Wei reported. But the debris is interfering with their formation. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the simplest tactics are the most effective. Railguns, third volley, target their flagship directly. The Audacity's remaining weapons locked onto the Krellin command vessel and fired. The hypervelocity round struck true, hammering against the flagship's already strained shields. Direct hit, Volkov confirmed. Their shields are failing. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. The engineering console erupted in sparks as power surged through the damaged systems. Power fluctuation in the railgun capacitors, Ortiz reported urgently over the comm, we can't fire again without risking an overload. Before Elena could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. Captain. Chen called out, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. Multiple human signatures detected. The EDF Resolute and Defiant have arrived, along with their escort vessels. The bridge crew erupted in cheers as the reinforcements appeared on their sensors, coming in fast from the direction of Mars. The Earth Defense Force's heavy cruisers immediately opened fire on the disorganized Krellan fleet, their weapons tearing through the alien vessel's compromised defenses. "Open a channel to Admiral Hirano," Elena ordered, relief evident in her voice despite her attempt to maintain composure. Admiral Yuki Hirano's face appeared on screen, her expression one of grim satisfaction. "Captain Vega. It appears we arrived just in time." "Your timing is impeccable, Admiral," Elena acknowledged. "Though I believe we softened them up for you." "So I see," Hirano replied, glancing at something off-screen. "My tactical officer informs me that you managed to disable half their fleet and trap the rest in an asteroid field using only a damaged experimental vessel. I believe that merits a commendation at the very least." "We were simply doing our duty, Admiral," Elena said. "The audacity lives up to her name." Hirano nodded. "We'll take it from here, Captain. The Mercy is dispatching medical teams to your vessel. I suggest you and your crew prepare for evacuation." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her remaining bridge officers. The radiation badges on their uniforms had turned red, the maximum safe exposure already exceeded. "You heard the Admiral," she said softly. "Prepare the ship for evacuation. You've all earned some rest." Commander Wei approached her as the others headed for the evacuation points. "Captain, the radiation exposure. Dr. Novak says there may be long-term effects." Elena nodded, having already accepted this possibility. "Some prices are paid immediately, Commander. Others are paid over time. Either way, I consider it worth the cost." She looked one last time at the tactical display, where the Earth Defense Force was mopping up the remaining Krellan resistance. Their victory today wouldn't end the conflict. The Krellan dominion was vast, with resources spanning hundreds of star systems. But humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not as a primitive species ripe for conquest, but as a force capable of innovation, determination, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. As Captain Elena Vega left the bridge of the Audacity for the final time, she carried with her the knowledge that humanity's future among the stars would not be dictated by alien empires. It would be forged by human hands, human hearts, and human ingenuity, qualities that even the most technologically advanced civilizations in the galaxy would learn to respect, or fear.